In this Marketing for Architects video, we're going to delve into the weird and wonderful world of human psychology. Understanding what drives us is essential if we are going to market and sell our services. This is a complex topic and not one many people bother learning about. However, if we're going to have any chance of influencing and persuading people to avail of our services, then we must first understand what drives them in the first place. We can't convince or change someone's mind to do something they don't want to. All we can do is align with what they want to do. After you watch this video, you're going to know what buttons to press with your marketing. So let's find out what those things are. For starters, humans aren't rational. Most people think that they make decisions or form opinions based on rationality. From the inside, it usually appears that our thinking, decisions and actions are rational. We think that we use logic, evidence and reason to make our decisions. However, from the outside, it usually appears that our thinking, decisions and actions are irrational. In other words, we make decisions based on emotion. Never forget, humans do things for their reasons, not your reasons, and rarely are these reasons rational. 99% of human decisions are based on emotion, and once we understand that, it influences the language you use and the arguments we make to availing of our services. So have a look at your current marketing material. Is it all logical stuff or is it rooted in emotion? The next point is that our psychology is rooted in our past. Great progress has been made decoding human psychology and behaviour over the past decades. The more we look for evolutionary drivers of our psychological mechanisms, the more we find them. Our most basic and primal three drivers are survival, sex and status. If you look behind most thoughts, feelings and actions, you'll find survival, sex and status. And these go in both positive and negative directions. The drive to get them and the drive to avoid losing them. Evolutionary psychology studies have shown that there is always something driving people. For example, social status is extremely important to us as we are social animals. We arrange ourselves into groups based on status, whether we are conscious of it or not. This is hardwired into us, and we are physically safer in groups and have access to sexual partners when we are part of a group too. Now we'll look at the structure of our brains, and this is called the Triune brain. According to research by American neuroscientist Paul D. MacLean, our evolutionary journey has us starting out as reptiles. Some of these broke off and eventually evolved into mammals, and finally we evolved into human beings from our mammalian ape ancestors. Each of these evolutionary jumps can be attributed to our brain structure. When we were reptiles, all we were concerned with was survival and sex, and that's pretty much it. And this forms the core of our brain, which is called the reptilian brain. And its drivers are food and reproduction. When we evolved into mammals, our brains developed emotions, and this put another layer on top of our reptilian brain called the mammalian brain. And finally, we evolved logic and reason when we became humans. Again, this puts another layer on our brain, which is called the thinking or logical brain. We humans have three brains in one, and this is called the Triune brain. And if that wasn't messed up enough, it gets worse. Our three brains aren't very well integrated. The older brains seem to rule the newer. The reptile brain is all about survival and replication. These are our strongest drivers. Our mammal brain allows us to group together and care for each other. These are our second strongest drivers. And the thinking brain allows us to reflect in ourselves and create logic. These are our weakest drivers. So the first question here is, what should we be appealing to with our marketing? No prizes for guessing the right answer. And on top of this is the fact that we humans are built and wired for a time that doesn't exist anymore. The modern environment has changed dramatically from our original environment. We evolved to be Homo sapiens, living in nature, on the plains, and were hunter-gatherers. In other words, we evolved in a reactionary state to our environment. We evolved in an environment that shaped us. We now live in cities and towns that we have created. These man-made environments are often referred to as human zoos, as they are not our natural environment. We have now evolved into Homo technologists, living inside the self-built human zoo. We have evolved to shape our own environments. We are now proactively changing our environment. But don't forget, our wiring hasn't changed. It's still built for the outside world. We started living out in the open and not in apartments. I'm a big fan of the zoologist Desmond Morris's books about human evolution and human psychology. And the two books that are particularly relevant now are The Human Zoo and The Naked Ape. I strongly suggest you read them. Here's some of what his research found. First, we don't make decisions logically, we make decisions unconsciously. The process of making a decision appears to be retinal, so we assume that it is. It now appears that most decisions aren't made consciously. Instead, decisions are made on an unconscious level, then rationalized with the conscious mind. In other words, we make decisions based on basic drivers such as sex and emotion, and we justify them with logic. Also, we live in the world's first over-communicated society. The level of choice we have is literally immobilizing us. The average person has essentially no hope of silencing the increasing noise. This means our marketing has to be super laser focused to get through this noise. Another thing to note is that we are twice as motivated to avoid pain as we are to get pleasure. Tests have shown that we humans will pay twice as much to avoid pain as to get pleasure. The problem, fear, pain aspect of what you sell is likely twice as important as the pleasure aspect. As we evolved, losing something usually meant losing our life. Along with benefits, also sell what your service helps them avoid and what problem it solves. This will be different based on what type of project you are going for and what type of client you want. When we have a need, our entire thinking and deciding process changes. A person who is experiencing a need, a craving, a desire, a fear becomes a different animal, so to speak. When under the influence of a need, we become single-minded in our quest to satisfy it, especially when it's about survival, sex or status. The stronger the need, the more we act like an animal. Think of how drug addicts act when needing to get their next fix, or how differently you act when you are hungry versus when you are full. We often act in desperation. We humans are also very bad at figuring out how much things are worth. Money, value and prices are very confusing to humans. We are constantly looking for cues, criteria and comparisons to understand how much products and services are worth. Over time, money has changed from gold to paper, so we can't think about what it is worth, and it is very abstract. And this doesn't even factor in living in a cashless society, which we are being herded towards by our financial institutions. We think money is value, and we can't compare the value between the different items. All of this adds up to the fact that prospective clients need clarity. You cannot hope to cut through this inner and outer noise without focus. You must know what you're offering, who it's for, and what the benefit is to them. Then present it to the irrational human mind. If you don't, you might as well not even start. In other words, you need to be very specific about the type of project you want. And you need to be very specific about the type of client you want, and then appeal to their emotions. This is easier said than done. Okay, the exercise in this video is all about appealing to the irrational human. Humans are irrational. Most of our decisions, communications and behaviour are the result of irrational forces driving us. To succeed in marketing, you must abandon logic and begin considering and appealing to the irrational motives and drivers hiding in the shadows of human psychology. So ask yourself, where have you expected people to hire you because it was the logical choice, or the logical thing to do? When have you believed that if you offered a better service, people would hire you? How can you begin appealing to the irrational motivations that are really driving most of human thought, communication and behaviour? Okay, this is the heaviest video of them all, and I urge you to go listen to this again or read it on the Affluent Architect website, so you understand what you're up against when marketing your architectural services. Can you begin to see why it's so hard to get clients when everyone is marketing their architectural services with logical reasons on why people should hire them? This is the heart of marketing, and you need to understand this stuff. Well, in the next video, we're going to build on this again, and we'll look at what your clients are really buying when they hire you. Also, if you want a written copy of these exercises, then simply go to the relevant blog section of affluentarchitect.com or click on the link below, which will bring you directly to the blog version of this video on the site. I'm Declan Connolly, founder of Affluent Architect, and I'll see you in the next video.